So if you're struggling with trading right now and you're having red days, you're taking emotional setups, maybe you're taking low quality B setups that in hindsight you regret, you might be wondering, is it you or is it the market, right? So in this video, I kind of want to show you how I approach that question to determine, is it me that's causing the issue right now in my trading, or is it the market that's causing the issue in my trading at the moment right now? And this is a super helpful question to answer because I believe it can relieve a lot of trading related stress that can cause basically poor execution, FOMO entries, and just poor performance leading to tilt and account degradation. So I'm kind of going to review my last 4 weeks trading and going to show you how to evaluate the days and the weeks to determine what the main problem was, and if you should have performed better, or if it just should have been a red week, which we expect in trading. So let's dive in. Now, you can see here's my current month. So this prior week, I was red. I'm down 2.5 R. Week before that, I was down 0.5 R. Week before that, I was pretty much break even. And let's even go back one more week. So look at this, the week of the 27th, $0 flat. So this month has been challenging for me after several good months earlier in the year. You can even see the tail end of April. You know, I ended up 1.3K on these account and just saw a radical decline in my trading over the last 4 weeks. But the question became like, is it me or is it the markets? And I don't want to just to sit here and blame the markets because I feel like you get on social media and I see that, I've seen that forever. Like everybody's just blaming, oh, the markets suck. The markets have sucked. No, that's not true. Okay. The question becomes, should you be trading in that market? In my opinion. So what I want to look at is what I went and looked at is I went through every single day in these last 4 weeks. And I just made a quick little annotated chart like this, Tuesday, May 12th. And for me, I had some issues outside of the chart, such as my internet was in and out for almost a week. And so I annotated that. Anything significant in my life that caused problems. And the two things that I looked at within every trading day is I looked at, were there any trades that I took? And in this case, Tuesday, May 12th, none. Was there any missed opportunities? None. And I just annotated this here. I said, okay, this is a B grade lunch trade. And that told me I probably shouldn't have taken it. And I didn't miss anything. But I just wanted to note it because maybe you start seeing patterns that like, oh, there's a bunch of B grade trades and they're all hitting, right? So you just look for your trade setup. Is it A grade? Would you have taken it? Yes or no? And that's all you got to do. And you go through the days and you just annotate what happened. So in the case Friday, May 15th, 100%. And now this is my grading is what if I did take a trade, I graded myself on performance. Or actually, either way, I typically grade myself because sometimes the answer for the day is no trade. So in this day, I said, I took a W partial on an A+ trade, and I took a full win on a 1-to-1 A- trade. And I asked myself, did I miss any opportunities today? None. And I went through all the days, and you then compile it on a weekly chart. So here's an example, and I'm actually going to start, and this is where I'm going to start to show you some patterns. I'm going to start back on this week here, the last week, I think, of April as it is, April 27th. So that's FOMC week. And just going through the weeks, I said, okay, no trades, no missed opportunities. And for me, my rule is FOMC Monday, no trades. Cool. Look at that. Look at the P&L calendar. It all matches up. 100% performance, right? And then on the Tuesday, no trades, no missed opportunities. And what we can see is on the days that I do trade, I also look at what's the perfect performance. In other words, the AM perfect performance would have been no trades. Yes, I did that. PM perfect performance would be, yes, I did that, no trades. And therefore, my total R for the day should have been 0. And so what I hope you can kind of see here is I'm gaining a picture of the if I performed optimally throughout the day and throughout the week, what's my R value at the end of the week? And so just continuing on, what we can see for this whole week here is no trades, no missed opportunities. No trades, missed opportunities, 1 win and 2 losses. I probably would have been break even or around the day. Okay. And so this is where we can start to see, missed opportunity was a lunch rate win, but it was against my rules. So for the AM performance, it was perfect. I didn't take any trades. Lunch and PM perfect performance, no trades, NFP R equals 0, right? We just continue on. And ultimately, I gave myself 100% performance because in this day, I did miss some opportunities, but they were winners, or excuse me, they would have likely amounted to me be break even or red on the day. And when I total it up at the end of the week, my perfect result for the week, if I played this week, in my opinion, in hindsight perfectly, would have been 0R. And look what I did. That was my exact result. So this tells me this whole week, I shouldn't have made any money trading. Okay? Now, take that idea and imagine looking back on a week and knowing you actually did the right thing, that not every week does the market provide opportunities. So in this case, I'm looking at this week going, this week was the market. And I played it perfectly because I could have been really red on this week, trying to force trades that weren't there. The market just wasn't providing me my setup that met my rules with my bias this week, which is an abnormal thing to occur. Now, this was FOMC week, so I had low expectations. And just continuing on, reviewing the rest of my month here, the next week was NFP. And I'm not going to go through all of these, but you can pretty much see I gave myself 100% on every day. And in the end, what I deemed as a perfect week would have been up a half R because it was one partial win on this Wednesday here. And my result was up a half R. So here, the second week, I performed perfect with one trade. This was ultimately the market again this week was just not providing setups for me. All right, week 3. And this is where it starts to get interesting. You can see some more notes. The internet's dead. The internet's dead. And I start messing up a little bit. We can see this 75%. I took an expense on an A+ trade, and I took an expense on a FOMO reentry to that trade. So this is where I started to struggle, was after 2.5 weeks of almost no trading, I FOMO reentered on a trade and took another loss. So I failed on that one. On this day here is 100%, and this day was 100%. And ultimately, at the end of the week, my result was I was down a half R. A perfect week would have been up a half R. And the difference, therefore, was 1 R. And so you can start to measure the gap between where you ended up on the week and where you ideally should have been on the week. And so I can look back at this week and I can say here, okay, cool. I made one mistake that cost me 1 R. Okay, I can accept that. That's not too bad. I'm a human. I'm going to make mistakes, and especially after the market's been pushing you. But what's also interesting is we can see this is the third week of no trades, no missed opportunities. No trades, no missed opportunities. I took no missed opportunities in the PM here. And then here was no missed opportunities, with one partial W and one lunch raid W trade. So we can see here in this week, really there were only 3 trades for me this entire week. And moving on to the 4th week, which was last week, not a great week for me. We can see that there's no internet on Monday, no sleep on these 2 days. We can see that I likely missed an expense, a perfect A+ expense. I likely missed 2.5 hours worth of wins on the lunch and the PM sessions. And we can see here this day, no trades, no missed opportunities. Cool. But this is where it starts to get ugly. 75% on this day. I took 2 not good losses. I took a B trade, and I believe on this day I did a, let's see here. Yeah, I took a B expense, and I also entered on a trade that didn't confirm at the very last fraction of a second and took a loss on that. So I had 2 trades that I shouldn't have taken on this day. And here on Thursday, the 21st, I wasn't happy. Same thing. I got a little emotional. I took 2 not good losses. I took a B trade. I took a FOMO expense. Now, here on this day, what we can see is, well, I'm not going to talk about that day. There's reasons. My rules are preventing me from trading on that day. And so then I ended up the week minus 3.2 R, and a perfect performance this week was plus 3.4 R. And the difference between the two, look at that, 6.6 R. So this week was me. This week was, the markets were not providing, and I started to relax my standards on my setups, and it started to bite me in the butt. And I started to feel some emotion towards not getting very many trades over the course of 4 weeks, and started FOMO entering on trades when I would get stopped out. And then it would look like it would start to run my direction and stop me out again. So this week here, what I could acknowledge is it wasn't a great trading week, but I made it much worse. And that's really what I want to point out here, is when we look at our days and our weeks like this, just grading them on what we did versus what we should have done and missed opportunities. Those are the 3 parts. We can really paint a clear picture to determine, was it us or was it the markets? And in the case of this, like, this week was absolutely me. I just started making this much worse. And if I would have played it cool, if I would have kept my emotions level, if I would have followed my rules perfectly, I would have been up 3.4R on the week. And therefore, I would have been positive on the month. So, in my opinion, is it the markets or is it you? Well, it depends. It depends on your model. It depends on how you performed that day. There are certainly people in these market conditions that are green. And these are certainly people in these market conditions that are doing really well. But ultimately, for me, what I can say is, looking back on the last 4 weeks of trading, is at most, I could have been up at most about 3.5R approximately. I just did that math in my head real quick. That's not huge, but it's not nothing to write off either. And so while 3 of the weeks ultimately were the market, the last week was me and my performance. So yeah, I'm taking this forward into next week. And what this really did for me is this really helped set my expectations for next week. Like, I absolutely can accept that the market may provide very few opportunities next week. It's just been the pattern the last 4 weeks. If it provides more opportunities, great, I'll take them. But I can also, with a reframed mind, go into next week thinking I could take no trades for a day or 2. And I also go into next week realizing that if I start forcing it, I'm just going to make it worse. So anyways, I hope that was helpful. If it was, give me a like, leave me a comment, and let me know. And I'll catch you in the next video.